All right. Can you guys hear me? Let me just check. How is that working for you? Yes, no, maybe so. Is it working? How does the sound by the way? Is it okay? Is it Let me see, just double check. Is it all right? Otherwise, I got a couple little options I can adjust on it. We hear and see you? Okay, perfect. All good? Awesome. Fantastic. All right. Yeah, we got a couple people jumping in. What is up? Yeah, I just decided to I haven't done a solo live on YouTube, so I've been doing a couple different ones like Zooms and stuff with other people, but I figured why not, right? Life's a bit short, isn't it? And we're all having a damn good time today with Trump, the Trump coin. What's good, Sam? Drug stream? Actually, hold on, wait a second. Hey, watch this. It's gonna make you laugh. Hey, how's it going? No, drink slightly, just having a sip. It's Saturday, right? Just having my little Winnie the Pooh mug. It's nice. Can't complain. Life is good. So yeah, we'll go ahead and start. It looks like there's a couple people jumping in. That's nice. Just get everything consolidated here in one space. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, we'll go ahead and kick it off. Screw it. So, anyways, yeah, I just wanted to kind of go through the week and stuff and like the end of the week and looking out to next week. Because I think the fun thing, especially for me right now, is just looking at the Trump stuff, which is hilarious, like the Trump coin. I don't know if you guys got a piece of that. That was absolutely hilarious. I don't know if they put the ticker on Bybit yet. No. There's one on KSEX. I know it's a weird exchange. I don't know. Let me see. Yeah, the price looks relatively accurate. Let me just check Bybit right now because it listed on Bybit this morning, and I was talking to some people. It was actually hilarious because we knew it once it listed. As soon as it dumped below the initial listing price, once it went on perpetual, it ended up doing a dump by I don't know something like 20%, which was awesome. But no, we actually got some of the long to the upside. This is actually a lot of fun, in all honesty. Wasn't expecting to do any trading on the weekend, but hey, no ticker on TV yet? No, I didn't think so. But that's all right. So this one looks to be accurate. Like that's the one I can find right now that looks okay. Mexi, I believe, is totally wrong. Not the right ticker. But Gates right. What a surprise. Gates an underdog. I've been having a lot of awesome times on Gate, which is it's like an old school, several years old, but it definitely works, definitely plays. But yeah, initial list price, nukes 20%, take it, continue. In any case, the whole thing here is, yeah, number one, I think there's some reports about $500 million being sold of the token by the Trump team or from the insiders. I think there's an over 80% allocation to like the core team. So it's a little sketchy in that sense, but I mean, he's the president now, so you can't. It's not like he's going to go to jail at this point. But at the same time, yeah, it's looking pretty decent. It's had a big move off the highs. Nice failures, I guess, is the big one that kind of sticks out to me. If I go down, I think I like the KSEX one better, which is weird to say. Let me look at UX. Ooh, ooh, yeah. So it's just the initial stuff is shit, but no, the local stuff is all right. So this is kind of like a big one. It hasn't really. This is the first time you've had a significant secondary loss of level. Even that looks a little bit off. Why does that look off? Nah, screw it. I'll stay there. But yeah, so we've had a little bit of like the first initial losses. It's highly speculative. If you guys are trading this, like I know I did perpetuals and I posted in like the Discord earlier. It is completely and utterly not for high leverage. If anything, it's spot only. I did was 3x shorting it. Anything more than that, it's doing 7% in within 10 minutes. So there's no point of doing anything 5x or over. What is up? Trump and Dump coming as him. What's up, Lemon? Alex? No ticker on TV. Yeah, irritating. It happened while I was asleep. Yeah, me too. I'm actually really pissed about that because there was I heard some rumblings, but I didn't really see anything coming into fruition. And then by the time it was on Solana, like the whole thing was full bore. I mean, people don't understand. Like you went to a multi-billion-dollar market, like hit 20 bill, I think at the top, $20 billion market cap in less than 24 hours. That's absolutely the most wild thing in the world. But in any case, doesn't really matter. So we'll look at Bitcoin because the Trump coin's going to do its own thing. I think the big thing here is really simple. There's 2 points that I really like. First of all, we had the new low that came in off of the 90K. It actually dipped under 90 on the perpetuals and even on spot as well. And I think that's pretty critical, the fact that we actually made that new major low. But what invalidates the lows, right? If we make completely lower lows that break stuff, I mean, breaking stuff all the way back to, a low by mid-November, right? We were talking about this all last week, I know in the Discord, but the gain of 95K for me was it. Like that, the fact that we cleared the weekly, we popped above 95, we even got a bullish back test of the level, right? It's all good. It's all good for a big continuation. And that's what we got the whole week. Basically, Tuesday was for longing everything for no reason other than you're longing it. And I know on Thursday, this was probably the most funny one. It was like everyone's, oh, it's dumping really hard. Where are we going? It's like, well, you're going to test the swing structure because there's nothing left to do. But it's been aping continuation. We've seen this before. If you want to look at similar price action, just go back in time to 2021. Right? So it sounds crazy and it looks nuts, but this is no different from what we saw last cycle. It really isn't. The inauguration is on the 20th. Like you look at the price action here and how wild it was and how the crazy continuations just, we made a big nasty low. Here again, different market, different liquidity. We start gaining levels to go higher, and then things just start full sending, and nobody understands why everything full sends. This actually took all the way through February after we broke kind of like the major high, which I would argue was at the end of January. So are we out of like the doldrums of the lows? Probably not. There's no evidence of that we've effectively said no to the lows because we haven't made a new all-time high. If we do that, yeah, it's done. It can only go up. And last cycle, from the lows that it made in January to early, into March and April, we did a 2x, right? Everything was bullshit back testing, really, really powerful, really strong. And it just kept full sending. And people were freaked out because they didn't understand, like, well, where's everything going? Why are we going straight up in basically a straight line with super bullish back test of level? It's like, that's the whole point. Sometimes max pain is straight up. Whether we're here back at 29 January 2021, who knows? But at the same time, it's a very clear break of structure to the upside. You have to play the lows as it's coming in, as we make higher lows and higher highs. And that's what we saw. I'm not going to let that play out still, but that's what we've been seeing this whole week, right? We've been seeing this is effectively looking like a V bottom recovery. So we make a massive new low, We make a local high or low, and then we establish price action structure, right, above the previous consolidation. So the fact that we're doing that alone made me like last week, think at the same time I was telling you guys, like, guys, if it gains 95, it's going to go. As soon as it gains 95, it's full sending. We're back up testing the highs. There's some higher time frame stuff we can do, but this is looking incredibly strong. There's overlapping demand and support at 100K. I'm not really going to start freaking out until we start. I'm not even freaking out, but where I'd expect it to go is if we do start losing the 100K support, because we have multiple daily time frames. We've got overlapping 1 hour, 4 hour daily support. If we start to break down from this structure, especially after the weekend going into Monday, I would expect that to be the step off point at the very kind of like mid, that's like kind of the average. The aggressive step off point is just literally go, because this is the Saturday open here. So if we open with no gap, we could just continue. That's the most bullish case. So I'll lay it out. The most bullish, the most neutral, and then the most bearish case. So the most bullish case is this, right? You close the weekend out. Sunday, we actually close the weekly really good. We're above the previous weekly. We're above the current weekly. It looks good, right? But if we do happen to break down on Monday, we have a big Monday nuke. We come back into this zone, maybe do one last little tippy tap, and then we start full sending again and aping, right? And then worst case scenario is we break all of this structure, come down, and then we start underside retesting 100K, and we probably nuke straight to December. Actually, probably not even December, and probably not the previous weekly open. Like, I don't think that's important anymore. We've already tested it. Same thing with December. We've already tested it. It's fully tested. So where's the untested zone? Probably back towards the weekly and the yearly. And that's the most bearish case as far as a level to come back down to test. And then what we do from there, I mean, we have to play that out. That's a couple of days of price action. I don't think we go straight down. There's a lot of what if. Monday is the big day, right? That's Trump's inauguration. It's the New York Stock Exchange is closed. It's a U.S. holiday, and that's going to be the big thing in my mind across the board. Which is, there are worst case scenarios that happen. There's been a lot of chatter about some kind of attacks and stuff. Like, it seems like a bunch of conspiracy theory shit, but at the same time, I don't know. In the last 4 or 5 years, 90% of the conspiracy theories have come true, right? I don't know. Worst case scenarios, obviously, black swan events do happen. If they do happen, I mean, hold on to your hats. We're going back to 76K, right? That's worst case scenario. We come back to 76, absolute worst. But it would take external market catalysts for that to happen at this point. The offloading of crypto from large positions that isn't happening. The supply shock. I wrote an article about it on Twitter. That's 100% a real thing. I wrote it back in February of last year because people don't understand the basics of supply and demand. The amount of on exchange Bitcoin right now is the lowest it's ever been. Very, very different from last cycle, by the way. Which is wild. Ookin' crazy move. Just checking the chat. Congrats on the awesome stream. Hey, thanks, Cy. Cy's the man. Could this be the last week of the bull run to grab alts fall 2024 prices? At fall 2024? Well, I mean, that's actually a fun one. So let me show you guys this. That's a good question because it's a weird one because of the Trump coin listing, and it's a definite market shakeup. So one thing that you're seeing right now is the Solana, obviously Solana coin has been full mooning, right? Following very, very aggressively. The breakout of 222, I think way back we had 180 as the level. If we break below it, we're going to see hard regains, and this thing has been full sending. We even popped the highs here, and we didn't just pop it. I think we took out everything significant. So anything high leverage is gone from that high. But the reason this thing full sent right now is basically because the Trump coin listing was today, this last 24 hours has been a sensation. It went from 0 to 20 billion market cap, and it's still ongoing, less than 24 hours. So think of it like I'll use the milkshake theory example. So this coin all of a sudden lists with the full support of the incoming the president elect of the U.S. And just like we saw the dollar milkshake theory play out last cycle, right? This sucked up all of the liquidity from the entire Solana network from all the different coins. So all the AI soul coins, all the meme coins, all the shit coins, whatever. They people were dumping that at 3 or 2 a.m. this morning UTC when that coin listed to effectively buy as much as possible. There's going to be a fading effect, obviously, when this thing starts anew, because there's already been some insider sells. It's going to happen. But that's the whole reason why the Solana situation has happened. Why, a lot of things are getting nuked on, especially on the Solana network, is because you're talking about $20 billion that came from somewhere. People have to sell cryptocurrency to get into Solana to get it onto Radium and Meteor and Jupiter and those things in order to buy Trump coin, which then they also sell their AI tokens, their Graphane, their OLAS, their ARC, all these different things, and then to buy that. Is there going to be a balancing effect? Sure. So I think you're probably right in the sense that it's not a bad idea to be able to get some of a hand into the AI stuff, because it's not going anywhere, right? AI agents, like we've barely, it's barely a thing. The vast majority of people, even who have thrown money at it, don't know how to use it. They don't know how to understand the concept of, effectively, it's like an Iron Man Jarvis that you can tell to go buy and sell coins and make you money, which is wild. It's absolutely wild, and people don't understand it. I barely understand it, and I'm definitely invested in the tokens just because I think it's such a cool concept. I've been using it just because it's so interesting. But once it becomes like the user experience becomes mainstream and easy to use, it's done. It's absolutely done. Those things, I mean, NVIDIA, the CEO of NVIDIA laid it out perfectly, right? You have AI, but then you have generative AI, and then you have AI agents like agentic AI, and then you have physical AI, right? Like that's and obviously you have infrastructure like artificial intelligence database infrastructure built into that. All those things are going to perform well, and it's all going to go higher. We're in the goddamn .com bubble / AI move for this century so far. That's what's happening right now. So yeah, it's entirely possible that you're probably getting some really good alts that can have some continuation. The problem, for the most part, is this cycle is not like last cycle, right? Retail isn't sitting at home during COVID getting free checks like in the US. Retail's effectively tapped out for the most part. And a lot of that's why meme coins and shit coins this cycle have been performing so well. It's like it's gambling effectively, right? We all know that. So comparatively to last cycle, there was some semi-intelligent investing by retail, trying to find the narratives. And here it's like, what's the thing? PP poo poo rocket coin always has like a good run. And that's what it's been. That's why if you look at Bitcoin price action compared to shitcoins, shitcoins have been mirroring Bitcoin, when last cycle, the shitcoins were the last thing to send, because everyone would go through Bitcoin, ETH, alts, microcap, like mids, micros, and then shitties and memes, and then rotate to stable and go back across, right? Mm. But yeah, it's a good point, but it is definitely a different cycle. Funny how in 2025, 76K is a level of Bitcoin fear. Dude, it's every cycle. What people don't realize is that 76 is probably not even going to be the low. You're probably going to end up getting, I would argue, 65 on the next bear market lows. I'd expect this to come back towards, I'm a little bit higher time frame here, but somewhere in here. Maybe that on a wick, but that's not really realistic. I think somewhere in here would be the bear cycle lows of next cycle. Somewhere in like the mid 60s. As like, yeah. Kind of like how last cycle we didn't expect 20K to get we expected 20K to get the low of the last bear market cycle, and then we get FTX and SBF, which it's a whole other story, and we go to like sub 16K and stuff. So yeah, that's another 25% move down. So just take that into consideration, and effectively the lows have been really interesting in the sense that you get 2 cycles ago you get the 3 to 4K low, and then last cycle you get like the 15 to 20K low, and then what's this cycle? It's probably, I don't know, 60 to 70K lows, something like that, eventually. And that's why I don't want to go back here to test stuff. I want to leave that for like the capitulation, just like we saw last cycle, where you get the full, you know, done. And something's going to fail, some major exchange, some project, like Luna, all that stuff, right? Hey, what's up, Christian? What is good? Zen Coiner. I can't wait for December 2026 already. Crypto way on sale, and then it 4-year cycle rhymes. Yeah, I mean, we're still on the cycle based system. It's the halvings. It's general market cycles. If anything, to put things really easy, just look at the global M2, like the global M2 liquidity index. That's, I mean, come on. The whole market's a Ponzi scheme, right? We understand this. Money's not real. So if there's more money being injected into the system and inflation is increasing, you're not going to hold cash. You're going to buy assets. You're going to buy stocks, commodities, whatever. So yeah, like that's effectively, I mean, we've had inflation of like 40, 50% in the last 5 years. That's why the stock market's still going up, but the rates are so high. It's because people don't know. It's like, hey, well, can inflation go up another 50% in the next 5 years? Yeah, it's definitely possible. And if it's all a Ponzi, I mean, then then you don't have to worry about it, right? It's the expectation that if you know the system's rigged and fake, then you can just make as much money as you can and walk away. Life is but a Ponzi scheme dream. Yeah, I mean, that's trading in a nutshell. Anywho, but yeah, the local stuff is looking pretty decent. I think we kind of formed our weekend range. At least it looks that way. Let me. Okay, that's the fake out above, below. I mean, it looks pretty decent, even up towards yeah. I mean, at these percentages, like look at this. You look at the lows on the 1 hour to the highs the 1 hour. What's the big number? It's over 1.4, 1.5%. So what do you know? The lows that are shorting with 100x or 50x are getting taken out with this kind of range move. And the fact that we're ranging is good. I don't want us to do major moves. If anything, I would love to see us nuking into the open on Tuesday, right? Because the New York Stock Exchange is closed Monday, and I think the CME is. I'm not 100%. I haven't double checked, but I'm pretty sure the CME, because it's a national U.S. holiday, is also closed. So that would be interesting in the sense that if we could potentially nuke through Monday, which would be awesome. If we do that, then we'll have a massive gap above us, which is be the first time we have that in a long time. Then CME gaps have a high fill rate. Not any theoretical reason why, but they just have a high fill rate because I don't know, correlated to some degree, 80, 90%. It's the same thing as indices. Indices have a higher fill rate than like you can't use stocks as a fill rate, right? Like for filling gaps. You don't do that on stocks because it's dumb. It doesn't happen. There's no correlation. But like the ES and the NQ, sure. Absolutely. Can you look at PopCat for real? Oh gosh. Yeah, I can look at PopCat. I think this is not. Oh, definitely don't want to be on the premium. Maybe on Mixie I have some? No. All right. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so PopCat had its kind of bigger failures 3 weeks ago, moved back down into low structure. That's all done and done and done. It's already done the low tests. Squeezing onto the Q3, it's lost and bearish retested. It's yearly and the weekly. That looks bad. Um, Daily, it's doing underside retests. So effectively this. Yeah, okay. Mm. So the big ones here that stick out is like, see this cluster? I always talk about this thing where if you have nukes that start dumping really hard, you look at kind of like the first major bounce continuation. So there you have the major bounce and then a continuation. What usually happens if you get a nice pocket of like resistance at this zone. So you could almost, if you ever see this on like the 4 hour, especially where you have a nuke, right? You've been nuking for days. You get the first kind of up candle bounce, and then you have a bigger continuation. Like that level now becomes like the key level to gain above in the local structure. So if you just box that off, I mean, you get free shorts on that level until it's gained back. And we got the gain back last Friday, I suppose. We're on Friday. And since then, you've had a nice yearly open retest. You're actually looking quite bullish in the fact that you're gaining ranges to go higher. So if I repurpose this, I'll turn these off just to make it clean. But effectively, you're seeing range gains. I call that a deviation. You're seeing this, you know, this is the low that you lost, right? You lost this range. You broke above into this one. And now you're doing a very similar structure, right? So I would say the big thing here don't want to do is start clearing back into this low, because if you start losing back underneath, yeah, call it 60 cents, you start to look for a bigger retest, which where's the next biggest retest after all these structure points? You don't have anything until you get back down towards like 53. So generally you would look at the previous range. Like if you're gaining a range or losing a range, you kind of look at that range mid. I could do a better line than that. There you go. That range mid as like a level where you're looking for kind of retesting if you gain back that range low. And yeah, you just don't have that now. So with all of this tested, if this thing really nukes, you probably want to have it come all the way back down to the lows. I don't see that to be the case. It's gaining levels to go higher in this move right now. So it's looking good. It's got untested structure above it. It's got untested lows below that. I would say that just based off of the price action, you're still looking for a squeeze back up to kind of give you a determinate test around like 68, 69 cents. That's what I would look at. Yeah, even in the lower time frame, you've got some pushes off the lows. You've got some untested stuff at 67. The one thing I will say that sticks out is that you've lost the low. Like the free, if I just delete this stuff, like the free short was already here. Like you lost the low swing structure. Hold on. There. So you lost this and you bearishly retested it. Effectively, that was the resistance. You gained it. You bullshit back tested it. You lost it and you bearishly back tested it. So that 69 level is going to be pretty key for a retest if you get back up there. If you start sweeping the low, and just to kind of show the liquidation points, you're not going to hold this low. Like that should not hold. You're probably coming back down to that low and that low, because that's where the high leverage stuff is that hasn't been punished. So you're looking good for a potential bounce as long as you hold that low. If you lose that low, you're going to sweep into that high leverage liquidity up until like probably this, where you'd expect a bounce if it doesn't bounce beforehand. So tentatively looking like it wants to go higher. Any longs are invalidated with a short if it fails 61.80-ish. And then you want to see a sweep of that higher leverage liquidity. That's just underneath this stuff, right? That's all it is. It's just underneath that. So that would be, in my mind, the condition for a potential retest. What you would want to see for like a breakout to make new highs is you want to see a move up and then like you want to see some type of bearish bullish retest that regains this 69.46 level, because then you've done two things. You've created a higher high that's significant to the structure. You've created a higher low. You're now looking at trend change, and you're looking to then come up and break the high of the previous range once that's gained, right? And that would be the gain right there. So tentatively looking higher, it goes out the window if you lose that low, because then you want to sweep the liquidity. It's too juicy not to. And obviously, it's a shit coin, so it's going to be tied to Bitcoin price. So if Bitcoin has a bit of a nuke, this could almost be breakout shorted, because that's not going to hold, and that's not going to hold. I think you go into this or lower. Makes sense? I can look at link, sure. Is there a significant update coming to the BitTensor, which is a dynamic tau involving tokens of every AI? So this thing is going to explode. There are already projects with the capitulated tau bot. No idea, dude. That is completely off my radar. I have not seen that at all. Tau is currently the only AI token supported by real blockchain AI projects. Are you just shilling Tau? Is that what the thing is? I'd have to look into it. I don't know anything about it, in all honesty. Uh, Pepe. Yeah, I can look at Pepe and Link. Maybe there was a short on this. Potentially, if we get back up to it. Hasn't been able to play out yet. Yeah, I mean, the big rejections were from earlier today, like early morning. Nobody was looking at it, I'm sure, because the Trump coin. But big rejections off the previous weekly. You've got untested yearly open that you dump through. So you would want to see some type of hold of this local demand, and then a regain of that to come back up to retest stuff, because it's untested. If you lose this local low, that's kind of game over, and you're looking for a retest. Probably back here, 0175. Probably back into this structure. Does that make sense? It's the problem is that it's broken down. It's the fact that it hasn't lost the low yet. If it loses the low here, so yesterday's open, the Friday open at 01, was that 812? Then you start looking at it as like, okay, now you've lost the level that you've gained, right? Because this is a gain. How do we know it's a gain? Well, let's just use the horizontal. That's the gain that broke you out of this structure. Gain to go to new high locally. If you lose that, think of it this way, because my brain works the same way sometimes. I'll invert the scale. That's the level that you lost that led you to the low, right? So if you gain above that, you want to see a test back up to that hip and potentially all the way back down. But until you do, you're looking for a bullish bounce, because that's still the direction of the trend, because you've still made that move. So until you lose, that's your kind of capitulation line. If you lose that, you have to go back to the weekly and be aggressive in case it pumps out of it. But yeah, you've just lost the local structure. You haven't lost the major level there. That's what I would, yeah. That makes sense. So you're looking for a local regain back to retest higher, because it's untested. I think Link had some good stuff the last couple of days. Yeah. Just look higher. I haven't looked at it in a while. That's a pretty gnarly looking flag right there. Did it back and did its big low test. Yeah. It looks good. I like the fact that it popped a new high on the daily. That's nice. 4 hour looks nice. It's holding pretty bullish. Hasn't lost anything yet. You could potentially try and short this gap, like the loss of the Friday open down towards this, but it's a bit sketchy. You still got a really hard priority up. You're still looking for longs to continue. You're just at a major resistance. But this high here changed things for two reasons. One, it created a massive new high, which invalidates the low, and you've already made a series of higher highs and higher lows on the way up. So until you start losing 23, 23 cents or 23 bucks, excuse me, that's still looking like a continuation move. Like that's your cutoff locally, and you just can't ever lose the yearly again. That's pretty much it. But yeah, it looks strong. I think everyone has the same smart idea. They try to short these things in a very strong upside move, which it is. But what do we know about the trend? It's your friend. So why are you trying to short into an upside move? Everyone does the same thing too, by the way, if you didn't know. Like we're getting a bit of a down day, so everything's a bit red across the board. Jupe is up. Obviously, Jupiter's up because everyone's using Solana to trade. It's using Jupiter and Meteor and these other ones to trade Trump coin, and you trade on the Solana network. So obviously, it's an outlier. But it's the Trump coin sucking up liquidity. So yeah, it still looks good. If it starts to fail that, then it starts to fail some higher low structure, and then it basically Christmas trees back down, right? Kind of Christmas treeing up. You'll start Christmas treeing down. Are you guys gonna play poker later? Yeah, poker starts in the Discord in like 20 minutes. You guys should. I don't think I'll be able to. I gotta take care of a little kiddo. Did you have a look at the liquidation heat map? Yeah, I looked at the coin glass one. I already did that. Not on the stream, but just privately. Yeah, coin glass has a great heat map. It's free. Definitely look at Cookie. Yeah, I can look at Cookie. Quite a liquidation till 100K. Yeah, I think that's not unrealistic either. I think we talked about that, or I think I mentioned that at the beginning, was that 100K is pretty juicy if we come back down to it. Wouldn't surprise me in the least bit. But that's where I'd want to see massive holds. I can look at Cookie. Yeah, it's respecting the fibs really well. I like it. Mm, it's probably overdue for a bigger correction. It's been in this flat for a while, so it's really simple. That low there is a little sketch because it actually broke stuff. And that high there is lower than the previous high. So if you break that low, going under 40 cents, you're technically downtrending. Why? Lower low, lower high, followed by a secondary loss of the lower low, downtrend. So you're looking for two things. Like you need a hold right here. Like really, really badly, you want to hold this structure like 40 cents, or you start capitulating down to retest stuff lower. Now, let me just check the daily. Yeah, daily still has a chance to hold stuff. The current daily close is pretty wrecked looking. On the buyback, on like the regain, you'd want to see weekly open regained because that's going to be some local retest stuff. So because you've broken down on the local structure, you could technically see a continuation move. But if you regain the weekly, you have to come up and test higher. It's in a bit weird kind of like upside consolidation because it's not losing levels. It's holding it very well. I don't like that 4-hour close. It looks a little sketchy after we made a lower high, but I would say the easier move is you're still technically expecting upside. If Bitcoin starts capitulating, like going back to like 100K to do a bigger retest, I would expect that to be lost, and you're going to at least 33 cents, potentially all the way back down to the start of the move, which would be worst case. I don't see that happening on a 100K retest. That would be like breaking below 100, and this thing would come right back to its yearly open. Why? It's untested. There's no test. And if it's untested, then should be retested. But I would say arguably, and this one's a little bit wishy-washy, you want to see this held, and then I test back at weekly, daily to retest stuff. But the moment you lose that, like let's say you reject that and lose it, it looks pretty much done until you regain the weekly and like the current daily open. That's what you would like if you lose the low, you have to see like 2 gains above it. I wouldn't it's not as clean, I would say, than like some of the other tickers because it's holding very well. But I mean, higher time frame, I think that'd be like a minimum target because I know we look at this one. I'd expect that eventually, but it's still again, it hit its profit target really well after like a full acceleration, and it's never had a massive retracement yet. Overdue. Quick thoughts on Bitcoin price action of the weekend. That don't stop, you guys need to stop calling me daddy. That's gross as shit. Weekend price action. You've got your 2 ranges, 105K and 102.5. That's the current high of the range for the weekend. So it's effectively this. That's your effective range for the weekend. Anything that breaks below the low here, you start gapping really bad. Also, the daily open today, that level is where the market closed last night. Remember that Monday's New York Stock Exchange holiday, and I believe a CME holiday. I'm not 100% on it, but I'm assuming it is because it's a national holiday in the US. So if basically that's your demarcation line for the weekend price action, which is if we open up below 104K, you're going to have a CME gap above you. And if you open above that, you're going to have a CME gap below you. But I'm hoping for very little to happen on the weekend. I do not want Bitcoin to move on the weekends. And traditionally we've been doing the Monday dump day stuff. Monday nuke, Sunday, Monday nuke. So we've got 2 Monday nukes in a row. Not really up for a third one. I think if we're lucky and it squeezes down a little bit, then we'll see about Monday morning potentially pumping through. Yeah, and you got to think like it's a real crazy thing with the U.S. inauguration of Trump on the 20th. So it's a bit of a market outlier, and the fact that TradFi markets are closed, you're really looking at crypto for potentially volatility. Just hope it doesn't go nuts. I miss my GIFs and soundboard. Yeah, this is half the reason why I did this, so you guys couldn't spam me. Can you look at BitTensor? Yeah, I can look at it. Okay, so had a big major move down, had a bad close on the weekly, bearish retesting. It's holding its yearly on the weekly, which is good. I think. No, not quite. Daily. It is a nice daily structure regain of like 443, 445, this yearly open level, and the current weekly, and it's at daily demand. So this looks good as a potential V bottom structure. And the only reason is because it's done its big capitulation wick, and now it's retesting this. It's retesting the weekly open really nicely, actually. 4 hour, yeah, it looks all right. Looks good. You're looking for this to hold still. The moment you close low, like underneath the yearly open, you're looking for this thing to make a bigger move back down to retest. The most bullish test you could do is 433. That'd probably be like the aggressive first profit target if it breaks the low and you want to target lower. But it wouldn't surprise me if it comes all the way back down to that. It still looks good though. It's got a really big regain, and even 4 hour wise, like you can make the argument that this is like a V bottom type structure. That whole argument of like major upside is invalidated the moment it does this, and then we'll see at that reaction. Otherwise, it's going there and then there as like kind of your general target. Still for continuation, because this high is important. That high broke previous structure highs. So you're still looking for a continuation. The macro long play is still likely in place until you lose that hip. and then you're cliffing it, and then the whole market's cliffing it. Barring a black swan event. I really hope Monday goes off without a hitch. I mean, I have something crazy going. I don't know. I just got like the heebie-jeebies about it. Mm, no seeing dead trend lines allowed in this chat. No, I'm not. You guys know. For the guys who are in here that know me, yeah, no, I don't do trend lines. They're subjective and not realistic, and they're based off of what you think looks good where. It's the same thing as moving averages. There's no theory behind it. There's no reason for it. Versus like horizontal levels, which is price action. It can't be up for interpretation. It is the level or it is not the level, right? Let's see. I have a bunch of polka dot from the last cycle. Anyone think it'll come back to life? Dot's pretty wrecked, dude. Yeah, look at Cardano and then dot. Mm, yeah, I mean it's holding its big structure really well. You could almost break out short this if it loses 8460, 0.8460, but it's potentially starting to swing fail because you did break structure, right? You did break it here. You haven't really made a nice gain back. Let's look higher real quick because I haven't looked at this in a while. Okay, yeah, so it's doing its big all-time high structure tests. It already did that back at the beginning of December. It's done those high retests already. So if it's gonna have a bigger loss, it'll jump from the yearly back to the Q2, right? So any loss of this upside range, which is the yearly open, it'll have a bigger move back down towards the Q2 open. So lose that, target this, sweep that. Yeah, screw that. I guess locally, you're just seeing a localized loss on the daily. Intraday, you could regain the December to retest this structure. So if you see 1.07, take you to 1.11. I don't even know. I think the juice is worth the squeeze. 3%. But the big thing here that I would just say is it's still trending up locally and higher time frame. It hasn't had like the bigger breakdown yet. Now, if it starts losing, like it looks like it's underside of retesting, right? That's underside of retesting. That move. It's not done. It hasn't lost that low, right? If it loses that, then I'm like, okay, then we're coming back here, like under $1. So kind of use this. Yeah, that's the level. If you lose 1.05, I would say you have a pretty high chance of breaking back towards $1, which it's not the grand scheme awesomeness, but it's still 5%. So what was the other one? Dot. Yeah, Dot's a bit wrecked. It's just one of the problem with this is that I was testing the levels perfectly too. Can it easily have a move higher since that low's tested? Yeah, I would say anything that closes above 1.037 is going to 14. I think pretty quickly because there's nothing left to test on a higher time frame. The problem is that it's still 80% off the high. This is one of those that right now doesn't look like it's going to make a new all-time high. And that's the sad truth of a lot of second cycle coins is they won't make new all-time highs this cycle. They just won't, unfortunately. But it's a pretty clean loss. I mean, you've lost that on the daily, really, really clean. You're still closing lows and making lower highs. You're still trending down. You can invalidate that, but you want to get back above 8.2 to test higher. It's just even on the 4-hour. Yeah, I mean, watch this 4-hour close. If you get a 4-hour close underneath this old monthly level from June, then you're probably looking to come back towards this structure, like with the yearly open, which by the way, weekly open, February open, yearly open, all this stuff, wildly untested. So 6.666. There you go. That's the level you want to hold. If you break back down to it, you want an initial bounce, because if you fail it, you have to come all the way back down to like 6.2. But you're breaking stuff right now. There's no upside traction. It's going lower. If you regain the highs at 7.1, then you can target higher. But it's losing levels right now, really aggressively. And the higher time frame isn't like super sexy. There's hope, but I would your best bet with this stuff is just take the low, like the low from last cycle, which is 10.373, and just add an alert to it and say, dot might not be total shitcoin, and then create the alert. And if it gains that, then you're likely to get some tests higher. But for right now, it just looks kind of poopy. If it was consolidating, like, off of this structure, if it was consolidating like this, it would look like Link and a lot of other ones, and you'd be targeting like $23, but it's not. So you can't. I have a bad feeling about Monday. Yeah, don't say that, dude. I've got a little bit of like, like ick to be sitting in my head. I don't know why. It's like there's a lot of things sticking out that are just irregular. Like he's doing it in the Capitol building. Like they're not doing the outside, and there's a lot of people who should be attending that aren't attending, which is weird. I don't know. I'm not going to go down a conspiracy rabbit hole, but I just want to be over with, get back to normal, bull run back on. But yeah, pump it up song. Oh, man, sorry, just a feeling. Yeah, I know. Feels so strange having you live stream on YouTube, smart. Yeah, I know. It is a bit odd, but it's Saturday, so I figured why not have a fun little sesh. We'll see if the Stuber short plays out, by the way. And for the guys who don't know, it's Trader Stu Tube's levels. Definitely give that dude a follow. He's a brilliant, very rigid trader, which is good. So he knows exactly, like he has a very strict strategy set up. And because we made a new low, like the macro short from the zone is still technically in play based off his strategy. He's not wrong. It's still definitely possible to have a bigger move down back towards, a wick back towards 98K is not crazy at all. Like at all. Because what do we have untested, right? The yearly open is technically untested. We can go all the way back down to like 93K and still be bullish. But we have so much demand, so much support. If we start losing 90K, we're going to 86. And then if we lose 86, we teleport to 76. There's nothing left to do. And then we go sit down between 70 and 80 for a month or two or 3. God, that'd be terrible. Which I don't want to see happen. I'm scared some of my alts moved and this seems so toppy. Yeah, Ryan, but that's like, you're also seeing a major outlier right now with the Trump token because it sucked up so much of the Solana liquidity. Like, there's a multi-billion dollar, there's like a $20 billion market cap or something crazy already. So this is still going on as we speak. Yeah. But that's the reason why. I mean, a lot of people just mass sold all of their tokens. And even here, we're actually looking at a potential bigger failure. This is the first time we've had a major kind of break low. So if we lose that there, with this all tested, should come back down towards like $20 if we have it. But it's still bullish. Just it's the secondary loss of that, even on the low time frames, that would start to break stuff. And then you can be like, okay, you lose that. Now you're doing secondary lower lows, lower high, lower low again. And then you're looking like, okay, then we're breaking trend back down, even on the 5 minute, which is ridiculous. Oh, it feels toppy. Yeah, but that's the thing, Ryan. Like the feel of it is really just that's what the bull run was. I mean, 2017 cycle, everyone said 10K top. It went to 20. Everyone last cycle, same thing. Just no one who thought we were going to 60K. It's just like now, nobody thinks we're going to 140K, which very likely. Still, there's nothing really against that yet. At minimum, it could go higher. There's a lot of external factors. The Bitcoin strategic reserve, the potential supply shock, which exists because it's the lowest amount of Bitcoin on exchange in, I don't know, 8 years. Retail being tapped out, ETFs, you got a lot of shit going on. If Gary Gensler was launching a meme coin, maybe you say top, but sentiment towards someone and a meme coin doesn't indicate top for me. Just trying to catch the wave for personal gain. Yeah. I mean, what are they going to do? He's the president in 2 days, so they can't prosecute him, which is actually kind of hilarious. But we'll see. If he rugs everyone, that would be the greatest, most hilarious thing I could ever imagine, in all honesty. It might even kill the space for a couple of years if he just rugged the coin. Would be funny though. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't see any about it. But the PTC, yeah, that's a good point, Smyrn. The PTSD from last bear cycle, that's the same thing. I had cycle PTSD last cycle because I couldn't actually take longs for months. I'd invert the chart to trade. So back in here, we were doing this move, like I think it was this. Yeah, it was September. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so somewhere in here, like we had been bear market shorting all this stuff, got a little hurt back in this structure, but like still generally made good on the kind of mid-cycle retracement failures, which by the way, the whole last year from March through November, we've never seen this before. It's like, yeah, we have. It's the same exact structure, right? With the COVID dump being the capitulation, so it exacerbated the downside where it probably should have stopped there. All right. So even here, I had to invert the chart. Couldn't do it. Like that was the only way for my brain to pull the trigger to start longing. It's like, okay, yeah, we're losing the levels. We're basically in a parabolic down, have a consolidation, failure, continuation. Do what you got to do, but it's real. The market stress from bear markets, like that's the psychological effect of trading, man. That is why it exists, to punish people psychologically. And when you break bulls or you break bears, you'll know it because you'll have the capitulation, and then everyone will be like, "Hey, it's at 16K. It can go to 10K. It can go to 5K." That type of shit. Oh, what if it takes Michael Saylor out? I think his margin last at the bear market lows would have been around 3 to 5K Bitcoin or something like that, which was absurd. But at the same time, everyone was thinking it. I was. It's not impossible, but that's the capitulation moves. That's why they happen. Check volume. Yeah, volume's still good on perpetuals too. It's starting to thin a little bit, but we're not losing anything. It's been good since the lows. And this is why I was telling everyone too. It's like, here's more evidence of why you should long everything at 95K. We knew this last Tuesday. No reason not to. Trump rug would be hilarious, yeah. Gotta see what happens with Trump tariffs too. Yeah, the tariffs will be awesome. I mean, tariffs are not a bad thing. People, there's a lot of fear mongering, mostly from people who don't understand tariffs, and they kind of like push that in the media. But tariffs were the norm, 100 years ago plus. I'm not worried about it, and effectively, like that's Trump's the way he deals with stuff in a nutshell, which is he'll say something crazy as like an extreme level for the negotiation tactic of walking back to something more reasonable. So it's a great negotiation tactic. If people think you're just out of your goddamn mind, you'll just say like, "We'll give you 50% tariffs on all your products." It either does one of two things: it forces them to negotiate a better deal, or it forces the companies that are producing in that country to produce in the U.S., which creates jobs. So it's not stupid. It might sound crazy, but it's not stupid. Mm. The Trump meme catalyst. I bet it was Barron's idea. That's hilarious, though. Either way, I'm not gonna pull that up, Wazzle, just because I'd have to switch screens and go through on like a different browser and stuff. But yeah, it's not crazy that we see a wick into this stuff. I think clearing 96 would be a little bit crazier. Like clearing that hip would be a bit nuts. We could though. I mean, like I said, the last couple week starts have been pretty hard nukes, but there's no break in upside structure yet. It really happens if we start losing 100K. Really starts happening. But like I said, even on volume, it's not bad. It's getting a bit thin, but it's not bad, even for the weekend. Mm, you might have to give to get sometimes. The USA might have to go through some pain where it needs to be. Yeah, but I mean I mean, realistically, the U.S. government is just an over bloated like Cthulhu of a beast. It's just disgusting. You got like 20 million people working for the federal government. You need to fire like three quarters of them. Get rid of all the bureaucrats. Reduce the regulations. It's just it's an overregulated ridiculous situation. It's no different from the EU. The EU's in the same boat. Like they don't produce anything. They just destroy and overregulate stuff into poverty. That's why Europe, like we're pretty basically screwed. It's going to be very difficult the next couple of years. I would assume economically. We have nothing going for us. All the Green Party jackaloons shut down the nuclear plants for some reason because they think, oh, nuclear scary. When in reality, in the modern world, you can almost like the Bitcoin hash rate, you can see the cheapness of electrical energy being like the Bitcoin hash rate to productivity. So whoever has the cheapest electricity is going to has like the biggest options for production because everything requires electricity on the production and manufacturing side. And on the data and AI side, you need cheap energy. And on the Bitcoin mining side, you need and like crypto stuff, you need cheap energy. So the cheaper the energy, the more production capability you have. So the more expensive by going to stupid things like wind powered, which is not, net positive for any factor. But yeah, that's a whole other story. It's a ridiculous argument that we would have to go to that we have to shut down nuclear plants and everyone's paying for it now. There's a few countries are doing quite well, regardless. So it's been a while since M2 chat. What do you think about the SPX weighted against the M2? Well, it's a good point. Actually, let me go on the other chart. Uh, Nice layup you gave me there, bud. um, yeah, it's you know, what is it? The high time frame up only from the dot com bubble highs. For the people who haven't seen this before, it's to make you understand the power of inflation and money supply. The markets go up when the M2 goes up globally, and when inflation goes up, because people store and big money and smart money store their money, their assets, their financial power in equities, stocks, uh, other things. But we're not up 300% almost off of the dot com highs. So the ticker for what is it, for the M2 in the US is the WM2NS. And this is a cool one because you can actually you can add charts together, you can divide charts. So this is just compare. So just look at this chart, 2007, and where we are now. And then you look at the effectively M2 adjusted, inflation adjusted, but it's more or less the M2 adjusted. And it's a totally different chart. We're basically testing the dot-com bubble lows on equities value compared to the M2. So yeah, is it higher than it was in 0708? Sure. But is it anything like late 90s? No. I think we could be heading into this, but there's still a snapback that's going to be pretty painful, I think, eventually. And I think we might have a couple more good years. We'll see how the AI bubble plays out, because the AI stuff is just groundbreaking. You get the dot-com bubble, and then the big capitulation on dot-com stuff. This is effectively, if you look at it in terms of, I'm sure some of the kids who went to college here have seen a market life cycle, right? And you have like, you know, the innovators, then you have the early adopters, and then you have like early majority, and then you have like late majority. And this is for any new technology. And then you have late majority, and then you have the laggards. So innovators, you get your um, initially Bitcoin, and then you've got like Vitalik and ETH and all these like ones that came out 2 cycles ago and all that jazz. And then you have the early adopters, which is, you could arguably say we're there. We might be getting into the early majority, but usually somewhere in the technology life cycle, you have this chasm, and that's just like the chasm where everything nukes off a cliff. And then you have the full market technology life cycle adoption, right? Which is basically the chasm of the dot com. And then by the time we get into, early majority to late majority, that's, the Optimus, physical AI, where right now we're at agentic AI to database AI, and then we'll go to physical AI, which is, you might have a little drone, like a Jarvis drone, or you're going to have an Optimus downstairs, like cleaning your bathroom or some shit. And that's somewhere in here as far as like the technology adoption. Because then by, look at the timeline, by like 2011, 2012, going into this stuff, everyone has smartphones, and only gets crazier and crazier. So yeah, rant over. So I'm talking about it, trim the fat off the government. Europe and the rest of the world will have to suffer more than the US, unfortunately. Yeah, the US is doing great economically speaking. I mean, it's been mostly just uh, there's a mini dollar milkshake theory playing out. I think it's worth a Google. It played out last cycle. So if you look at the dollar currency index, this is the dollar milkshake theory playing out this whole bear market. So when did the bear market start? That first gain back, right? So October, November 2021. That was the end of the bull market, which was a massive downtrend. That was the confirmation of trend change, higher time frame to go higher. And then this whole move up is the dollar milkshake theory, where all of the global currencies effectively just sell into the dollar because it was performing better. And we're seeing a mini version of that right now happening. Pretty much happening since mm, going into the election started exacerbating. But eventually, you want to see the dollar currency index to start to break down pretty hard. We're getting close to something. We never want to get above this. If we do, then bond rates are going to go well over 5%, which they're close to it. Now, bonds going over 5%, 30-year, yeah, but like 10-year and stuff like that. That's then we start looking at 70s style stagflation and people parking their money in cash and bonds for the safe returns. Yeah, hopefully it won't last too long. Well, yeah, you pretty much have to gut the EU and get them to basically F off of destroying everything. Um, they're the problem. 100%. They're over regulating everything into the ground. Like you need to fire them all and probably just replace the EU with like you know, an alliance agreement. And then people can freely transact and people can make their own laws because the current EU law system is crazy. Effectively, EU law supersedes national law, and if you don't adhere to that as a nation state, you get massively fined, which is crazy because it's technically they're trying to just the original plan was USA 2.0, and there's no way that could work because I could drive even in Sweden, I could drive for a couple of hours and I go through 2 or 3 different countries with different languages, different cultures. So it's not possible. And it's a stupid thought. It really, really is. And they have to massively deregulate and then you start building this shit out of nuclear and getting away from this net zero psychosis. It's not there. It's not it. You know, trim the fat off the government. Yeah, I would say more like lobotomize it and fire like 80 to 90% of the people. I think tariffs would hurt U.S. citizens short term. U.S. hardly makes anything. Most goods are imported, put together in the U.S. to use that. So, yeah, that's true. But I don't know about the 3 to 5 year pain. That would, like I said, I think it's a negotiation tactic first and foremost. It's the same thing with like the old Greenland that made everyone lose their minds. Like he's gonna invade Greenland. He's not gonna fucking invade Greenland. But he knows that it's a strategic military position at the same time as it's a super natural resource rich place. So it'd be dumb not to enter into some type of agreement. But it's funny because it's headlines, right? But as far as like the tariffs hurting citizens, it depends on the product. It might incentivize large corporations who can take the hit to make more money long term by changing and forcing them to bring back manufacturing and production facilities in the US. And that's effectively why you have tariffs. But it's mostly a negotiation tactic, I think. At least it seems that way. But anywho, yeah, I'm gonna start wrapping up actually because this I was only thinking about doing like 30, 40 minutes, but there's a lot of you guys are asking great questions. It's get me to think, which is hard to do when I'm got a little bit of the Ginny poo in me. But yeah, so the weekend structure just for Bitcoins, we're all on the same page. We've got some low tests at 102.5, and we've got the high test here at like 105. Is expect this to kind of flatten out as the range, and any breakouts to kind of like, okay, if we break out of it, watch if we see regains to come back in as a free long to go back towards the daily. Same thing to the upside. I do not want to make new highs. I see that as very unlikely. But if we do break out above that, watch if we break back in for a potential short back into the structure to retest stuff. The current daily open is the market close from Friday. So what does that mean? 104K. Wherever we open up on Tuesday, because Monday is a national holiday in the US, as well as being the Trump inauguration. that's where we're going to see a CME gap from. So effectively 104K, wherever we open up Tuesday morning, 00 UTC, that should be the gap difference between that level. And gaps have a high fill rate, as we all know. But the rest of the stuff closed really nicely. I mean, ES closed super strong. Uh, Highest close since going back into the end of December. So this is good. It's regaining levels to potentially go higher. It's a bit of a breakout move in that sense. I would say the number one thing here is like on that close as well. It's a big deal because it's retested some stuff. It's potentially breaking back out. We could just get the full send. And I'm not too worried about a break back towards the early open until we get some underside retests. Because we've gained levels that we've lost that led to lows. We've gained them back. So we want to see continuation and squeezing through the shorts that have been stacking since the highs back at the beginning of December. And that's the same thing for effectively the NQ as well. The only difference that the NQ hasn't really broken out of that high structure yet. And the ES structurally, the S&P 500 looks stronger. Here, you just want to see no losses of the yearly and then a gain of, call it 21.6 to get you back up to testing the highs. Because if you lose the yearly, it invalidates the local longs anyways. But you got VIX closing low as well. So this is good. You've got a potential for this thing to have a continuation move lower, which is what we want to see. The giga long zone for the VIX is still in play. We want to get back below 12 for some really big market movement. We don't want to see this as like the catalyst to start legging up to some crazy nonsense back towards Rona dumping. So we want to see this like start to break back down. We don't want to see any sustained price action back above 23. That'd be pretty freaky if you start doing that. Then I'm more bearish on the short term or downish. I don't like those terms in the next couple of weeks or months. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of us has been, I mean, I enjoyed it trading it this morning. It was a lot of fun. The Trump stuff. It's had its first major like pullback. I don't know if KSEX is the best. There's a lot of perpetuals now. Maybe Gate even. Yeah, so this is still like the first major kind of like down move. And if we start losing that again, you should probably see a bigger flush out, maybe to 23, potentially back towards 20. But I wouldn't discount it. Any new high off of what we literally just did, like this structure here off of 31, you're going back up to like 34. So it's a new listing. I'd only get, like I said, locally bearish if we break that low here at 25, 26. Just then, test 24 and then potentially come all the way back down. It's a new listing, guys. It's super high. It's highly volatile. Even if you're trading on 10x on this on perpetuals, you're going to lose money. I traded on 3x this morning because I just took a snap short on the listing low. So listing price low. If you get price action that goes underneath it, you're usually going to get like a 20% flush out, which we did. Or I guess not on the Gate ticker, but on Bybit, because the Bybit ticker is not up yet. But still cool to see. PP Pooper Rocket. Yep. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, it was a blast. It was fun. It was a lot of good times. I really appreciate it. So enjoyed Trump and dump. We'll see. We'll see what happens going into the Monday. Definitely just de-risking a bit because it's a major event. You don't know what can happen. It's the way you treat any type of major potential volatility event. Like major volatility events are not for, from economic data points, the Trump inauguration. This to me, it's stupid to try and play it directionally versus what's the smart move, capital protection, and then wait for the move to play out. And then you can play the natural price action and not the price action that's exacerbated by the event. Right. But yeah, I really appreciate it, everybody. It was a fun session. I might have to do more of these. Great questions. It was kind of fun. I haven't really I've done a live one on YouTube yet, just doing the market updates. And I guess that's pretty much it. So I will catch everyone here. For the guys and gals. Appreciate it supporting me from the community. That's awesome. And get access to it. It's a lot of fun. We do live streams every day, really, every Monday through Friday. And yeah, I'll leave it there. You guys have a great one. Have a great weekend. Don't get too crazy. And yeah, Monday's gonna be friggin' wild either way. I got a feeling. So that's that. Yeah, we want more YouTube streams. Appreciate it. Thanks, Cy, Sam, Alex, everybody. I really appreciate it. Wazzle, awesome stuff. Catch you later. Peace.